What's up, Epic 7? TristenWulf here. April 10th is rolling up on us fast, and one of the things that we're going to get are Selector tickets. Specifically for this video, limited Selector tickets. Now, I am going to make videos on my recommendations to what to do with all of the Selector tickets, but in the interest of making these videos not be an hour and a half long and bogging you down with information you got to scroll around and find, I'm going to limit today's video to just the 5-star unit Selector tickets. What is the best in the game? Where are they used? How are they played? And hopefully help make that decision a little bit less painful, less scary for you. Now remember, these tickets aren't going to drop right on April 10th. You're going to have to do some things to get them, so you got some time. You got some time to suss it out, look at other people's tier lists, and I recommend you do that. I always recommend you get as much information as you can because everybody approaches this game different, from cleavers to standard players, from PvE Andes to RTA enthusiasts. Everybody's going to have a different take on what is good and what is bad. I'm going to try to paint with as broad a brush as I can, talk about their uses in all aspects of Epic 7, and hopefully it'll make it as clear as mud for you. So let's jump in and talk about the limited units available in Epic 7 in 2025. Now, before we get into this tier list, I want to take 1 minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. That's right. Guys, I'm telling you, when I first started my journey in Raid, I did not expect to find what I found. I heard all kinds of things about Raid, and a lot of them were not good, but I was blown away by how great the community has been, how immersive the game has been. The diversity of PvE in this game is crazy and right up my alley. There is so much to do, so many different things to do in this game that you will never run out of content to grind on. And yeah, you know what? The game has got a paid component. What game that tries to make money doesn't? But you can play this free-to-play friendly. I was blown away that so many people play this game free-to-play. But there you go. One of the reasons you can do this is how incredibly generous the people over at Raid are. If you use my download link in the video right now, you will be able to start the game with a free legendary hero and a free epic hero. But above and beyond what you get from my link, which you should use, above and beyond that, you will start out with everything you need to succeed in the game. One of the mistakes people make in Raid is they jump in and try to level too much, too fast. And you can start out with, let me just go over it real quick. One of my favorite heroes is one you start out with, and that is the rare unit Kale. Kale is really, really good because he spams poisons, and poisons in this game are so incredibly strong. You can do a lot more damage than pretty much all the other damage dealers at an early start. Plus an AoE skill, he is great for clearing content. So start out with Kale. He's the first unit you get, a very powerful start. In addition to him, when you farm a little bit further in the game, you'll be able to pick up War Maiden, who is a defense breaker and an attack buffer who will help you be able to clear content. She also has poisons in her kit. And between her and Kale, you'll be able to clear most content. And eventually by day 30 of just doing your login rewards, you'll get the Queen of Speed, High Katoon. And High Katoon is a speed buffer and a speed imprint for your whole team. You get all these for free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. You just log in, play, and pick up these units. But what you also get if you use my link, and I get asked all the time, hey, Tristen, how can I help support your channel? Well, you want to help me out here, guys? Click the link in the description of this video and download Raid and give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But don't listen to all the negative hype. Be your own person. Judge for yourself what you think after you've tried it out. Because when you download that link, not only do you help me, you get a powerful start in the game. You will start out the game with the Epic Hero Rector Drath. And for my Epic 7 peeps, she is basically Ruel of Light if you put Maid Chloe's kit in there as well and give her AoE stealth. She is a legendary hero wrapped in an Epic Hero's clothing. She is very, very strong. You will also pick up a Leneral for free on day 1 of your gameplay. A legendary hero at the start of the game is just so good. And remember how I said poisons were super, super strong? Well, look at this girl's kit. Not only does she stack poisons, she detonates them. She's a poison detonator, so she will help you do a lot of bossing. And you can also slide over to the sidebar, go to promo codes, and there are several promo codes that you can enter. You can enter Supreme 6 to pick up Supreme Gallic. You can enter Monkey King to pick up Sun Wukong. You could enter Get Alice to get Alice the Wanderer. Get Loki to get Loki. There's a whole slew. They'll be in the description of the video. I recommend Supreme Gallic. Now, I picked Wukong, and I've been having a lot of fun with Wukong. And Alice is pretty strong, but I didn't get Supreme Gallic. He wasn't offered when I started. And man, I wish I was in your shoes where I could start out this game with Supreme Gallic. This guy is fierce. He puts HP burns on targets, and HP burns is like a Daydream Joker wrapped in a debuff. This combined with Rector Draft for support and healing, Eleneral for bossing, your starter unit Kale for poisonings, High Katoon for speeds, War Maiden for defense breaks. It's everything you will need. You don't have to spend a dime in this game to accomplish PvE at a high end and have months of content. Not to mention April 10th. What is it about April 10th that games are going nuts? I know it's the 100th day of the year, but it seems like everybody's doing something insane April 10th. April 10th is starting Raid's community appreciation event where every single day, if you log in, you get rewards. Up to the final reward, you get another legendary hero. So there's never been a better time to download Raid Shadow Legends and get started on your adventures. Use my promo code, scan that QR code, use the link in the description, help a brother Wulf out. I really appreciate it, guys. Now let's get on to that tier list. Now, first things first. Everybody thinks they know how a limited selector ticket is going to work. They don't. Nobody does. I don't. They've never done this before. To my knowledge, we've never had a limited RGB selector ticket. I mean, sure, they've done limited selector tickets in packs before, but they've always been targeting a specific group of heroes. It's never just been a limited selector, go get them. So we don't know the rules, right? We know the rules for ML tickets have always been the unit has to be at least 6 months old. You see that with the Headhunt event, right? Where they lock out units that have had a banner within 6 months. And that makes sense. You don't want to have spent hundreds of dollars chasing a unit only to have them give it away for free a couple weeks later with a selector. The rule with the custom group summon, where you're allowed to select limited units, has always been it has to have had 2 banners before you can put it on the custom group summon. But that's a custom group summon. That's not the same as a selector ticket. So we don't really know the rules here. So I'm going to mention how the 2 known rules, the 6-month rule and the 2 banner rule, apply to each of these heroes. We won't know until the tickets are out whether or not the heroes are available. So I'm going to talk about all of them. And if it's not available, it's not available. It sucks, but you got to move on with your life. First, we're going to talk about the strongest units, the S tier. A little departure from the way I normally do tier lists from the bottom up. We're going to work from the top down. So right now, in my opinion, the strongest DPS unit from the limited pool in the game is Tori. Now, a couple things first about Tori. She may not be selectable. In fact, she is the least likely to be available in the selector ticket pool. She has only had 1 banner, and it was within the past 6 months. So the 2 things that have disqualified people from selectors in the past disqualify her. So she is the least likely to be summonable. But if she is summonable, she's your #1 pick. She's got undispellable buffs, which means you can put immunity on her, and that makes her immune to all debuffs because you can't strip the immunity other than by buff reduction. Also, she's got a cockroach passive, and what that means is you can't do more than 51% of her health in a single hit. So if you drive her health really, really low, say 8,000, means you can't do more than 4k damage to her in a single hit, no matter what. So if you put like a 10k barrier on her, well, now she's got 18k health, and you can only chunk it out in 4k bites. That means you've got to hit her 5 times with that 4k damage to kill her. It's crazy. It makes her very hard to kill, especially if people keep re-upping her banners, all the while she is killing you. Now, she is an S tier, hard S tier, probably one of the most impactful DPSs for RTA this season for RTA. For Guild Wars, you will find uses for her. She is S tier to high A tier for RTA for Guild Wars for the same reason she is an RTA. In regular arena, she doesn't have much use at all. You might find a way to shoehorn her into a comp, but she's really not used in a regular arena at all. And in PvE, she's got 0 usage whatsoever. So Consider that if you're an RTA player, must-have unit. If you like Guild Wars, strong unit. If you don't engage with either of those aspects, not the unit for you. Next, we're going to talk about Afternoon Soak Flan. Whoever it was at Smilegate that thought, hey, you know what? A unit should have 100% evasion who defense breaks and spams AoE hits. And yeah, I hope they stub their toe, like really, really hard. Now, we have seen some changes that have come that have made Afternoon Soak Flan less of a problem. The buffs to Crow, Ice Crow, making him one of the strongest units of the game, has given Afternoon Soak Flan users a little bit of a fit. We're getting some buffs that will help us deal with Afternoon Soak Flan with the balance patch. So there are some things coming that make her less and less impactful, but she is still a powerhouse unit. In RTA, she is probably one of the most drafted and higher win rate units. Very, very strong there. S tier for RTA. In Arena, she is used on a lot of defenses. She is key to defeating a lot of Harsetti offenses. Especially when used with Zeo. S tier in Arena. In Guild Wars, similar usages to RTA. You'll find plenty of uses for Afternoon Soak Flan in Guild Wars. High A to S tier for Guild Wars. And in PvE, you'll find some uses for her there as well. Not as many, but any ranger who can heal and dual attack. She can heal because you can put her on Bloodstone. She can be your team's healer. You're going to find some uses for that, though not in the common, grindable, repeatable PvE. I'm talking like Abyss, Labyrinth, regular story clear, bossing events, Ancient Inheritance, that kind of PvE. She's going to be bonkers for, but things like expeditions and hunts and Rift, no real use in the grindable PvE. Now, Afternoon Soak Flan has the same problem as Tori. She has only had one banner, and it was within the past 6 months, so she fails both of those conditions, so her and Tori least likely to be available on the Selector ticket. Now we're going to talk about Laya. There's been a lot of talk about Laya lately. Should I get her? Should I skip her? How important is she? Is her artifact what's good and not her? Laya is a powerhouse support unit. She really is a master of all trades, jack of none. Laya has a cleanse for your whole team. She CR pushes your whole team, basically feeding raw speed into your team. She reduces skill cooldowns, and when push comes to shove, she can throw her bass guitar, hit you in the face, and wipe out just about any unit in the game, as long as anti-pen is not out there. So, look, DPSs are temporary, supports are eternal, and she's beyond just a support. She is a support and a DPS, and she dual attacks. If she attacks, she will pull a unit from your team and attack with them. It's one of the strongest things a support can have, because that makes her a sub DPS where she is doing damage via the dual attacks. So yeah, giga strong unit, and one who facilitates so much of your team. She is the reason that Mediator Queric, formerly one of the best units of the game, has kind of fallen to the wayside in favor of Laya, who just does his job but better. So I think she is high A to low S tier for RTA. She is a wonderfully useful tool to have in your tool belt. If you don't have her, there are other units you can play. There are ways around it, but if you do have her, you will reach for her often. In Arena, she really doesn't have much use in regular Arena. You aren't going to find much use at all for her there. In Guild Wars, you'll probably find as much, if not a little bit more usage for Laya in Guild Wars than in RTA. S tier for Guild Wars. And for PvE, the dual attacks are nice, but there are probably better options, freer options, easier to access options that do more for you. I'm going to say B tier for PvE in general. Now, Laya has got one strike against her. She has had a banner within the past 6 months. She has had 2 banners. She meets that condition, but one has been within the past 6 months. So that makes her unlikely to be on the Selector ticket, because Smilegate doesn't want to piss off the people who spend hundreds of dollars buying their Laya on a banner only to give her away for free. So I think these 3 are the least likely to be seen on the selective summon. Okay, and that's my S tier, guys. Those are the most important ones, and they're also the least likely ones that you'll be able to get on the Selector ticket. Crazy how that works. It's almost like Smilegate plans this to make sure you pull limited banners when they're up instead of just waiting for Selector tickets. Let's talk about Summer Unit Frida. Frida came out late summer, and everybody that had Bellion started shaking in their shoes. Frida allows you to let whoever you put in the front spot of your team to soul burn. And that is a super powerful thing because you can't stop it with Bellion, and that means you can soul burn units like Luna to seal Bellion and then start generating your souls, which is great because Frida goes next and she's got soul generating artifacts. So it's a complete reversal on the too many souls, no problem, I got Bellion. Lets you be able to drop this girl in and start soul burning in places you couldn't. She is also very fast and has CR boosts and gives attack buffs. Stupid good unit if you like playing fast. She is probably one of, if not the most important unit to have in modern regular arena. She is key for dealing with most of the Harsetti BS, and she is key for cleaving the non-Harsetti BS. So if you like playing arena, S tier unit for regular arena. For Guild Wars, you will find some uses for her in Guild Wars, high A to low S tier for Guild Wars. For RTA, high A tier for RTA because she is a great unit to put in to solve problems and make your opponent have to deal with the fact that she's there. For PvE in general, though, not a lot of uses in PvE, though she does have a cleanse and a CR boost, though she is a good buffer. There are other units that can do those kind of things for general PvE. You don't find many uses. I'm going to say low B to high C tier for general PvE. Now, Frida has the sin of only ever having one banner. She's only ever been on banner once, so she fails that condition, but that banner was well over 6 months ago, so she is likely to be on the limited selector ticket as long as they don't hit us with the has to have had 2 banner limitations, which would be tragic for this selector ticket. Now, we talked about one for the people who like playing fast. Here's one for the people that like playing slow or like playing just standard kind of speeds, right? DN. DN's buffs have made her a monster. If you had to suffer through fighting against somebody who threw DN at you this season, I'm so sorry. It was fun, wasn't it? Wasn't that great just watching yourself die slowly to 1,000 cuts? DN is giga strong right now. She spams so many buffs, and most of her buffs are 2 to 3 turn long buffs, so they take a while to go away, and you can try to strip them, but she puts them right back up. She keeps them coming. She's got some CR motivation, and also she has built in those buffs are built in an anti-crit buff like Landy has and an anti-pen buff, kind of like Illinov's passive but in a buff form. Makes it very, very hard to kill the tanky teams she's running with. Giant pain in the butt to fight against this unit, and it makes her incredibly important for people who don't want to play fast to succeed in RTA. Now, if you're a cleaver, if you're a high aggro player, you might have some uses for her, but predominantly she is for standard and tank down. In that role, she's an S tier for RTA. For aggressive players or cleavers, yeah, not that of important of a unit. She doesn't really have much of any use at all in arena. She hasn't really found her niche there. In Guild Wars, not that good on 3-man teams. She just doesn't, she's not well-rounded enough. You might find some uses for her here and there in Guild War, but probably B tier at best. Regular arena, there's some fantastic uses for her in Raid to fight Executioner Carcanus. Several Abyss floors can use her. I'm going to put her solidly in the A tier for PvE just because she is such a strong Soul Weaver who brings so many buffs and can help keep your team rolling. Now, DN has been out for way longer than 6 months. She's a 2018 unit, and she's had multiple banners, so it's guaranteed she is in the selector ticket pool. Who is not guaranteed to be in the selector ticket pool is Child Senya. Child Senya was released as an answer to Harsetti. Harsetti came out with her anti-fun buff and bricked the game, and they quickly rolled out the fastest counter you've ever seen to a unit in the form of Child Senya. She was such a strong counter for Harsetti that she became Harsetti's best friend and now is working with her. You were supposed to end Harsetti's reign of terror, not join her. Anyway, Child Senya is a solid healer, cleanser, reacts to people hitting her. She's great to take into units that spam AoE. She can ruin you if you do that. You will need to stop her fighting spirit by taking units like Elvira or resource reduction units like Sea Phantom Politis or Eligos in order to have a chance dealing with her being on the enemy's team if you want to AoE at all. If you're just running single target, you can deal with her a little easier. It makes her a... It kind of makes her a must-have tool to have in your tool belt if you're doing RTA. If you're not pre-banning Harsettis like I am, you're crazy. But if you aren't, you'll want to make sure you have Child Senya on hand to either use with your Harseti or use against their Harseti. Makes her, or I'm just going to say solid A tier for RTA. You can live without her because pre-ban exists, but having her opens up a lot of possibilities to you. In a regular arena, she is a staple unit. She is on the majority of defense teams. You need to have her. She's S tier for regular arena. Same with Guild Wars. She's on the majority of Guild War defenses, especially ones involving Harseti. S tier unit for Guild Wars. As long as you have Harseti to pair with her, she is S tier for those. If you do not have Harseti, she's mostly S tier use against those. And for regular PvE, you know, there's a lot of PvE that does spam AoE. You might find uses for her here and there, but she really just doesn't bring enough for the team to be used in general PvE. About the only PvE usage for her is for Banshee. She can legitimately be part of or even solo Banshee all by herself. It's slow, but it's kind of funny. So I'm going to put her in the B tier just because there are usually better options for PvE in general. So that's solid unit. Now, she has only been out since December, so she fails the less than 6 months, and she's only had one banner. She fails that as well. So like Tori, like Flan, Child Senya is the one of the 3 least likely units to be on the selector list. The last unit in the A tier is going to be Blooming Ludica. Now, Ludica, aside from looking amazing, that's the primary reason to get this unit because, damn. She is very playstyle specific. If you like running fast openers who do debuffs, she is a powerhouse unit. You got a Zeo, you like Zeoing people. As long as Zeo sticks a debuff, Ludica's going to do her thing. Ran, Hera, any Elegos, anybody who's going to go first can activate Ludica, getting her to do her stuff, which can further activate other units like Requiem Rowana, like Summertime Asaria. It lets you just start cascading and running over your enemies, and that's a lot of fun. If you don't play fast, her value drops significantly. She is specifically for people who want to play fast, aggressively, and just steamroll their opponents. And if you like that, if that's your style, I know it's mine, then she is a must-have unit. S tier for RTA. If that is not your style, then you're not going to use her much. B or C tier for RTA. So I'm putting her solidly in the A tier because it's a little playstyle specific, not just like the other units who can be used by everybody. As far as arena goes, she's got practically 0 use in arena. C tier for regular arena. And for Guild Wars, theoretically you can use her like a Zeo, Ludica, Summertime Asaria, but you're relying a little bit on 15%, and it's hard to shoehorn her in against a lot of defense comps. So I don't know, maybe B tier for Guild Wars. And for general PvE usage, there is no general PvE usage. She really doesn't serve any purpose outside of RTA and the occasional Guild War fight. So we'll put her solidly in the A tier, but be aware, she's got to be your play style. Don't just say, oh, A tier, I'll get her. Make sure that you play the way she wants to play and that you play RTA. Otherwise, not much useful. Now I'm going to slip down into the B tier. My first unit in the B tier is Holiday Euphine. The thing about Holiday Euphine is she is an anti-cleave unit. And if you want to get into or succeed in RTA, you've got to know how to deal with being cleaved. Everybody is getting 1,500 more attack. Bombs, burns, and bleeds are going to do more damage. The reduction to damage from element is going away. And you're only getting 500 extra defense to deal with that. It means cleave's going to be everywhere, more so than ever. And you're going to have to be ready to deal with that. One of the more popular cleaves right now is pushing people back, activating Successor Teiyu, and once that happens, I mean, the button is up and to the right. Just exit out, right? So units that stop pushbacks are really, really good, and that unit is Holiday Euphine. Holiday Euphine will keep you from being able to be pushed back. She's great in trapping Zeos. She's great at stopping the Successor Teiyu cleaves. She helps against Sea Phantom Politis. There's a lot of ways you can use this unit to slow down cleaves. Outside of anti-cleave and RTA, though, doesn't really have any uses. Doesn't have any use in regular arena. Doesn't really have any use in Guild Wars. And although spamming AoEs is nice in some PvE content, she doesn't really do that much damage. Her burns aren't consistent enough, and her damage isn't quite there, and she doesn't bring any self-sustain for the team, so she really doesn't have any use other than anti-cleave. But that anti-cleave is so important because cleave's going to be everywhere. I'm putting her in the B tier, somebody you should consider if you don't like being cleaved. Next, we're going to talk about Galililius. Galililius used to be really, really high up on the tier list, and she's fallen down quite a bit, mostly because of units like Ilanov and units like BN spamming anti-penetration. Anti-penetration really, really harmed her capabilities. Like Tori, she's got a cockroach passives, but unlike Tori, her damage is linked to having a low HP differential, so you need her HP to be low to do all kinds of damage, which makes her a little tough to build. You got to find all this DPS stuff that doesn't have crit chance or HP on it, because she doesn't need crit. That's wasted stats, and HP actually keeps her from doing as much damage. So it takes very custom gear to make this unit. She is a hard unit to build. Usually Artena crafting events to get specific gear are required to use this unit, so be careful selecting her. Make sure you can build her. Find another unit with the same class and Zodiac, and they will have the same stats. Put some gear on that unit and pretend it's your Gala and look at the stats, and make sure this is a unit you can build in a way you want to build her, because otherwise she won't perform well. Where she performs is absolutely murder stomping super tanky units that have got like 26, 27, 28k health, gone. Just remove them from the board. And then she CR pushes your team, she self-attack buffs, and she self-heals on her S1. So having a cockroach passive and being able to self-heal on her S1 gives her good staying power. It makes her great in RTA as a pocket pick when the enemy tanks down on you and doesn't spam you with anti-penetration. You pick her too early, you're going to get hit with DNs and Ilanovs, and then she is useless as tits on a boar. But if you sneak her in at the end, she's a must ban or you win. So I'm going to put her in the B tier for RTA just because she's a little harder to use. In regular arena, nobody plays tanky. In regular arena, she's got zero use there. In Guild Wars, few people play very tanky in Guild Wars. It's mostly just very aggressive. She's got practically zero use in Guild Wars. In PvE, she's actually found a little bit of a home in PvE. She's one of the best units to use against Jewel Leaf Council, and she can be used in the expeditions as well, or green unit expeditions. So she does have some limited units use in PvE. So we're talking hard C tier for arena and Guild Wars, A to B tier for RTA, and B tier for general PvE usage. So the B tier is a pretty good spot for her. Seaside Bologna. This one is a mixed bag of nuts, guys. Seaside Bologna was the meta for the longest time. Now, a couple of things are keeping me from putting Bologna in the A tier, right? And if you can meet these conditions, maybe you go in the A tier. First is Rengar's Special Drink is her artifact. It's a limited artifact, and you wanted it plus 30. And if you've got that, if you can run that artifact, she is definitely a tier unit, especially after her buffs. She's getting some buffs that are going to let her pop damage, do significantly more damage. She's getting a boost to her attack, which is going to make her easier to build, a boost to her defense, making her easier to keep alive. Everything that's happening in RTA, down to RGB elements not being harmed nearly as much in RTA, is going to make Bologna significantly more dangerous. But she still has the same old counters. Green Rowana just destroys her. Units that ramp up as you hit them with AoE attacks like Last Rider Crow or Abyssal Euphine punish the hell out of her. Makes her hard to use, but as a 4-5 pick, I think she's going to see more usage. Right now, she's at the B tier, and I think she could slide up to the A tier after the buffs. We'll have to see. This is a unit that if you're thinking about, I encourage you to not pull her until a few days after the buffs have gone by, where you can see what the changes to both Arena and the balance patch have done for Bologna. And make sure you get her artifact too. Speaking of artifacts, Summertime Assaria, same boat but worse. If you do not have Summertime Assaria's artifact, she is not a real unit. You may as well try to convince me Enot is good in RTA if you're going to try to convince me that Summertime Assaria is good without her artifact. She needs it to be a successful unit. If you do not have Star of the Deep Sea, do not waste a selector on this unit, unless you plan to pick up Star of the Deep Sea from your artifact selector. This is a unit who needs that artifact, and it really, you're going to need to spend some bottles. You're going to need to get it as close to or at plus 30 as soon as possible. Once you've got all that, she's getting a significant boost from all the changes that's happening. Although she has not gotten a direct buff, she is getting a buff in the sense that 1,500 more attack means her bombs will do more damage. Bomb damage is based on attack. Bombs, along with burns and bleeds, are going up in damage by 50%. So 1,500 more attack and 50% more damage on top of that. And they're getting rid of the RGB penalty. That's not as big of a deal from her because bomb damage kind of ignored that anyway. But still, all of that compiled in is going to make her significantly nastier. Plus, being able to use units that spam AoE, like Bologna, like a Blooming Litica. If you want to run Zeo into Blooming Litica, into Requiem Rowana, into Summertime Asera, you can mow people down. So if you want to plan a debuff style cleave, she is really, really, really good. But without Star of the Deep Sea, not good at all. I would give her a B, potentially A tier in RTA. We have to see how the changes work. I would give her an A tier in Guild Wars. I'd give her a C tier in regular arena. She's not really functionally usable in regular arena. And for PvE, bombs don't really do that much in PvE, and she's kind of fragile. C tier for general PvE. And if you don't have her artifact, forget everything I said. She's D tier across the board without that artifact. Okay, next we're going to talk about Landy. Oh, Landy. Now, what can I say? Was it the eyes, the rose-covered lips, the slender body? I'm going to stop now. Landy was a great disaster in her day. She ramps up in damage the more she attacks, and she's going to get 1,500 free attack. If that ramp up stacks on top of that 1,500, it's going to make her damage insane. Also, the more buffs your enemy has, the faster it resets her S3, so she can start spamming her S3, which does penetration damage, does crazy damage. CR pushes your team. She's a ranger, so she can be stealth with guiding light. She can be a healer with bloodstone. Gives her a lot of diversity, both slow counter builds versus fast cleavy, bridging kind of initiating units. The one thing that slows her down that you think would actually be good for her is DN. DN spamming all these buffs will ramp you up fast with her S3s, but also DN, one of those buffs from DN is anti-penetration, which makes her S3 hit like kind of a wet noodle. If it wasn't for DN having the anti-pen and the prevalence of Ilanov, I would put her up here and say watch for her to maybe climb up to the S tier after her buffs and the changes to RTA. But right now, the big unit I would want to take her into would be DN, and she's not the easiest unit to take Landy into other than spamming the S3 is going to facilitate your team. I would give her a solid B, possibly A tier after the changes for RTA. For regular arena, she's got no use whatsoever. For Guild Wars, there's just not enough units to spam enough buffs to use her in Guild Wars functionally. Niche uses B tier at best for Guild Wars. But general PvE, did I mention she's a ranger who can wear Bloodstone, who ramps up attacks, CR pushes your team, and does insane damage along with penetration? It makes her one of the best Abyss clear units out there. If you're having trouble with any kind of a major boss fight, Landy is your girl. Now, she's not so good on repeatable content. You can use her in like Dark Expedition, kinda, sorta, but she doesn't have a lot of grindable, repeatable content. You're not going to be whipping her out versus Wyvern or in Rift, but for some of the one-time through stuff, especially Ancient Inheritance, Landy is great, so we're going to just leave her in the B tier for that. She's A for some, C for others. Next, we're going to talk about Summer Eda. So Festive Eda is in the same class with Holiday Euphine. She is kind of an anti-cleave unit. If her stealth is stripped, she will pop off and fling a whole bunch of debuffs that will disrupt the enemy's team. And a lot of the people that run openers that strip, you drop this unit in, you can keep them from pushing their buttons, and if you keep a cleaver from pushing their buttons, you're going to win the fight. Or if they go ahead and risk it and they eat a bunch of disrupting debuffs, then they just top right and leave the fight. So she is a nice tool to have in the tool belt to stop cleavers, but that's kind of about it. She doesn't have any use in PvE. She doesn't have any use in Guild Wars. She doesn't have any use in Arena. She's strictly an I don't like being cleaved RTA unit, and a good tool to have in the tool belt for that. And last in this tier is the ice cream truck girl herself, Ocean Breeze Lulika. Damn, Lulika's looking fine in a bathing suit. So Lulika used to be one of the most important RTA units out there when we were all playing a lot slower. She is a strong healer. She is great at cutting up when people try to use non-attack skills. She can still be used in standard and tank down play, especially if your opponent is going to try to use non-attack skills or is going to try to debuff you, and she'll just push up and cleanse. Still a very strong unit, but her usefulness has just dropped way down as the meta has narrowed. Now, as we're starting to open up for more RGB and a more debuff-centric meta, we might see her use pop back up again. Solid B tier for RTA, maybe a B tier for the one-off Guild War fight. No real use in regular Arena and no real use in PvE. And down in the bottom tier here, we have got Fairy Tale Tenebria. Fairy Tale Tenebria is a fast but not fast enough opener who spams debuffs, but not really the super impactful debuffs. And she's got a really nice artifact, and she's really pretty, but she doesn't really bring anything to the team that other units don't do better. If you want to use her, sure, she can definitely be used. You can definitely make some gains with her, but she's got no real direct use that's not just done better by somebody else in RTA. Same for Guild Wars. She's got no real use at all in regular Arena, and her PvE usages are close to zero. Lethe. Now, Lethe is getting a buff, and maybe that will boost Lethe up a little bit with the changes to RTA. Possibly. Lethe still has the big issue of her kill condition is penetration based, and with anti-pen out there, she just hits like a wet noodle. But I think with the changes to RTA, you're going to find maybe you can sneak her in on a 4 or 5 pick, make her a must-ban unit, but only if the conditions are perfect and the opponent doesn't have an opportunity to counterpick against her. Her biggest use has been in Guild Wars, and that use is only going to get stronger in Guild Wars. She is probably A to B tier unit for Guild War fights. She's got no use at all in regular Arena and no use at all in regular PvE. So, just situational and hard to use. So, if you want to pick her up because she's beautiful, I will not slight you for that, but she's a little hard to use. Ahmed is a opener who's just not fast enough to be an opener. And she's a CR manipulator in a world where that gets punished through non-attacking skills. So, Ahmed is basically just an Arena unit. If you like cleaving with Arena, if you like doing a Zeo Frida cleaves, then Ahmed is banging good for that style of cleave. She is high A tier, maybe even S tier for cleaving in regular Arena. And she can be used, but it's a little bit harder because you just run out of room on the team to cleave with her in Guild Wars. I would say B tier, possibly A tier, but probably B tier for Guild Wars. And for RTA, she's a solid C tier. There's just so many units that just do it better than her. And for regular PvE, she doesn't really have any use at all. So I'm just going to leave her down here in the C tier. The only reason you pick up Ahmed is if you just love cleaving people in regular Arena. And Biblis. Biblis is a kind of a side grade to Rowana. Green Rowana heals your whole team whenever you take counters or extra attacks. Biblis, whenever you take counters or extra attacks, she will sprinkle back water on the enemy, stripping them, applying defense break, and healing your team. Rowana is a significantly better healer than Biblis, but Biblis is a decent healer in her own right, and a strip plus a defense break is really nice. The best place to use Biblis right now is against the Nightmare Queen. She enables a full auto stable Nightmare Queen team, and that's about it. That's literally about it. She doesn't have any PvP usages, no Guild Wars, no Arena, no RTA, no real other PvE usages. She's just once a month you'll whip her out to go kill the queen, and that's kind of it. Cerise is an opener who's long past lived her usefulness. Once she gets a speed EE, then maybe she will come back. But as it stands right now, she's just not fast enough to be used in a modern meta the way she's designed to be used. In her day, she was great, but now she's been reliquated to PvE. She's got no use in RTA. She's got no use in Guild Wars. She's got no use in Arena. And her PvEs are limited to, hey, I need a dual attacking unit who is also a ranger, who can also spam defense breaks, targets, whatever artifact I choose to put on her that does these things. So her primary use right now is in Light Expedition, and that's about it. You'll find some other uses for her, like Ancient Inheritance, but they're few and far between, just not a very usable unit. Luna, God, buff Luna, Smilegate, buff her to the top. That was such a pretty unit so far down on the list. Luna is a single target DPS unit who is just hard to use. She doesn't have enough self-sustain to stay alive. Her stats are great, but it's tough to make her work. I've seen some counter Lunas do some shit, but you really got to work hard to make Luna work. She doesn't really have any place in RTA except for a couple of Mad Lad purists who love her and will run her on counter set. She doesn't really have any place in regular Arena. In Guild Wars, you can CR push her up and kill 2 units, so she is kind of like maybe B tier for Guild Wars when you're sure you can nuke those units, where anti-pen's not a problem, or you know you just have the damage to get through them. And general PvE, outside of Ancient Inheritance, she really doesn't have any use. In general PvE, I guess you can use her as your DPS for Brutal Ferris, but there are just simply better options from Fene to Commander Arena for that position. And the last limited unit available on the Selector ticket is Summer Break Charlotte. Summer Break Charlotte was a lot of fun to run in Arena. We called it the Sharklet battery because you could just use Sharklet to batter your enemies down and wear them down, and it was so consistent. It was a full auto team. It was so fun to use, and like all things fun, Harsetti came along and ended all the fun. Now Charlotte's main use, Arena, has gone away. She went from an S tier Arena unit to a C tier never used unit. She's not used in Guild Wars. She is very, very, very rarely used in RTA, only as the most niche last pick in specific situations. And as far as PvE goes, outside of some limited use in Ancient Inheritance, she doesn't really have any PvE usage either. I would recommend just bagging it on Summer Break Charlotte. She's not worth it for right now. So there is your list. There is your limited Selector tier list, in my opinion. I tried to go over their uses for RTA as well as PvE to give you a better idea, not just say this is the best thing for RTA or screw RTA, this is the best thing for PvE. Tried to keep it well-rounded for you. I hope this helps you guys out with your selection. Remember, wait to use your selectors until you've seen the full impact of the RTA changes, until you've seen the full impact of the balance patch changes, so that you know you're picking a unit who is strong in the current meta. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You guys have a great rest of your day.